Welcome to Touchdown Town on BetsTV. I'm Gilles Gallant with FTNBets and BetsTV. It's week 15. We're going to be here every Sunday morning right up until the end of the season. Going to be helping you to make top quality decisions for your touchdown prop bets. And I'm going to welcome in my co-host, Brenden Deeg of National Football Post. Came in here by the seat of his pants. I thought he was lying face down like Tyron Woodley somewhere in a ditch, but he's been hitting some big bets. Chargers, for example, certified banger. So we're going to get started here with the touchdown picks and get right into it. Before we do, though, I want to remind everybody to check out my weekly show, Dog Day Afternoon on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, only on BetsTV. This past week, I had a great conversation with Matt Peralt from Props US. He's the host of Boston versus the Book. We made some Week 15 bets, and it was funny, Brenden. I had this guy on the show. He's a Patriots fan, older than me, so he knows a lot about the Patriots history. He was trying to tell me that he wants the Patriots versus the Packers in the Super Bowl to make up for 1996. And just talking about we should have had that one, like that was ours, blah, blah, blah. And almost trying to garner sympathy for Patriots fans for a loss that they had. And I was just like, I didn't want to just end the interview there because he's a great dude. But man, I was like, dude, do I have to talk about the last 20 years of what we witnessed with the Patriots? And then obviously this year, obviously the loss with notwithstanding. But it was just funny. It was just one of those things that it was a great conversation. It was great to hear about that. And I'm sure as yourself, as an Eagles fan, you're going to try to get sympathy out of me for what's been going on lately. No sympathy from me. NFC East rivals for galore. Brenden, we're going to get started with the picks today. And we were texting throughout the week, and this one immediately caught my eye. And I think you and I were both just like, oh my God, almost ready to fist fight over who was going to get to be able to pick this one. And that was T. Higgins. Anytime touchdown at plus 250 was available at FanDuel. And again, it's easily my favorite pick of the week. Higgins over plus 200. It's just such a misprice, man. The odds are typically around plus 150 every week for this guy. To me, it's great value. He was around plus 150, plus 160 the last few weeks when he has scored. And one of the reasons why I love T. Higgins, Brenden, is that he doesn't quite get the shine like Jamar Chase, but he gets nearly the same amount of snaps, targets, and red zone targets that he does. Really, the main difference between Higgins and Chase is obviously the touchdowns. Higgins only has 4 this year. Chase has 10, obviously is a bona fide stud. This isn't me trying to downplay Jamar Chase. This is me trying to say, hey, let's not forget about T. Higgins, because a lot of those same stats where he's nearly equaling Chase, he's also played 2 less games than him. So for me, when you're getting a guy like this at plus 250, T. Higgins had to lock it in. First pick of the week for week 15.
And he's on my fantasy team today, so I need a big day from the guy. He's never at plus 250. These odds are crazy. This was my probably favorite bet from both of us, and we were going to go to war for it, but I was nice enough to give it to you.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is with Higgins, last week we had that war of words, and we ended up, I ended up letting you have, well, not letting you, you took it, Mark Andrews, and obviously that came in big time. So let me have this one. Maybe T. Higgins will get into the end zone. We can get off to a nice start. Brenden, let's hear your first pick of week 15.
Okay, so kind of similar to T. Higgins here. I don't really kind of get these odds. Number 1 wide receiver, plus 270. DJ Moore is coming in with the Carolina Panthers. Look, I'm not big on this Panthers offense. I don't think there's a lot of juice, and I don't know who's playing quarterback. Who's playing quarterback today for the Panthers? Is it Cam Newton? I thought Sam Darnold.
He is activated. And Cam is starting, I think, from what I read. And right now, I think Cam is plus 220 to score. So
he was plus 160 earlier this week. But I just think these odds are too good to be true. He's got over 12 targets over the last couple of games. He's basically their offense. If he doesn't get the ball, the offense doesn't succeed. So plus 270 signed me up. Panthers offense isn't very good, but these odds can't beat it.
Well, when we were initially doing the show at the first 2 weeks, I had DJ Moore on the show, and it was probably plus 220. He hasn't been above plus 200 ever since, even with Cam as the quarterback. But you're just seeing Cam's inability or lack of ability. I'm not really sure the definition here of being able to just be as accurate as we hoped. And that's been the book on Cam his entire career, even in his MVP season. But the fact that you're getting DJ Moore at plus 270, I know that even Robbie Anderson was kind of appealing, and he's probably over plus 300. So I'll be taking a look at a lot of different Panthers touchdown scores today, but DJ Moore at that price, obviously a very good start for you. So now we're going to move on to pick number 2 for me in week 15. Brenden, I had this guy a couple weeks ago, and it was probably, if I had to use to look at every single pick that I've made this year and just kind of in hindsight, it was probably the worst pick I've made on the show for a touchdown score. But this time it feels really good. And I think it's because of the kicking out of Urban Meyer. I'm going with Trevor Lawrence anytime touchdown at plus 400 from DraftKings. And I mean, I don't want to say like, oh, just throw all the stats out the window, but I just can't think of a better get right game for Trevor Lawrence than at home versus this Houston Texans defense. And I mean, Lawrence, he does get red zone carries, just rarely in a position to succeed. They're rarely in the red zone. There was a couple of games, like one is against the Rams. I think they were in the red zone just once the entire game. 2 touchdowns this season, rushing 7 red zone carries. What's actually funny, I was just looking at the red zone carries for quarterbacks for the year. Trevor Lawrence with 7 red zone carries. That's actually 6th amongst all running back or quarterbacks this year. So I just wanted to point that out. And the Texans run defense obviously is just awful. 22 rushing touchdowns allowed, 5 to quarterbacks. That's tied for last in the NFL. I also expect James Robinson to have a big game because of his, whatever Urban Meyer was trying to prove to keep him on the sideline in certain instances, or not giving him the ball, even though he's playing like 70% of the snaps. So I expect Robinson to have a big game. And I think if Robinson has a big game, that could take some of the attention off of Lawrence to be able to scoot one in. So that Trevor Lawrence anytime touchdown at plus 400 is my second pick of week 15.
How pumped are those players that he just gone? Like, they got to be more juiced than ever. Everyone's on the Jaguars, though. It's one of those kind of, I don't know if I'm following the right path here. It's minus 4.5. They shouldn't be favorites in almost any game.
One of the few times that you'll see a coach get fired and the spread actually move in favor of the team that fired the coach.
Yeah.
So again, I have no side or total. Week 1, I remember I took the Texans as a money line home dog against the Jags just because I thought it was just ridiculous that the Jags were getting points against any team. And I still kind of feel it this way, but now the Texans are just in shambles. I don't believe in Davis Mills at all. So, all right, so I'm 2 picks in. Brenden, let's hear your second pick of week 15.
Okay, so you don't have to watch this game if you don't want to, but if you're following the picks, you should kind of tail along. Going the same game, we're going Marvin Jones plus 210. Kind of the same philosophy as you. I just think this offense is going to pop today. No Urban Meyer. Look, if that guy was just a cancer in that locker room, they all must be just so pumped to play a football game without him. They like the new coach, the offensive coordinator. So I number 1 target, kind of just same philosophy as you. Just the offense will have more juice. Red zone targets for the number 1 target wide receiver. I don't know. Like I feel like if it wasn't like if Urban Meyer was in this game, then none of us would have these picks. We wouldn't have taken Trevor Lawrence or Marvin Jones. We're literally just tailing Urban Meyer's firing.
Well, a part of it as well is Urban, but also just, I mean, the Texans, there's a lot of statistical data that you could bring up to say like, hey, a quarterback should or a running back should score against this defense. But offensively, if you just look at the game logs, I mean, some of them are fairly tough opponents. And the Texans have actually been pretty good on the road this year. They have like almost like 14 interceptions. Most of those are on the road this year. One of them was, if you recall, a couple of weeks ago, they turned Ryan Tannehill over 4 times on his home field. So just something to consider with Lawrence's interception prone to throw those. All right, so we're 2 picks in each. I'm going to move on to a third pick. Brenden, I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder here. I'm going with a 2 touchdown prop pick today. And this time I'm going with Myles Gaskin, 2 touchdowns at plus 700 at Caesars. And I think it's pretty clear if they're facing a team like the Jets or the Lions or the Texans, you got to take a look at the running backs to go for at least 2 touchdowns. And it's the worst run defense in the NFL. I mean, 23 touchdowns allowed just to running backs this season. And Gaskin, when I looked at just previous matchups and also just against his last time he played against the Jets, like he had over 20 carries on them. He almost had 2 touchdowns. He did catch one of a goal line catch, but he should have had 2 that day. And when you look at like the Dolphins running back like carries, just the progressions throughout the year, it's kind of funny how many carries Myles Gaskin has over like the next guy, like a Salvin Ahmed or even to a Malcolm Brown before he got hurt. Like he's got 100 more carries than the next running back on the team. And they're playing at home. The Jets gave up an average of 7.5 first downs on rushes per game. That is 27th in the NFL. So, I mean, at plus 700, I think it's definitely worth taking a stab whenever decent running backs are playing against like a team like the Jets, Texans, or Lions. So Myles Gaskin, 2 touchdowns or more at plus 700 from Caesars is my third pick of week 15.
These are great odds because also is Salvin Ahmed, or you just pronounced it right? I think I keep messing it up.
Salvin
But
Ahmed,
yeah. So
way,
they both still off the
backup.
COVID list. I think they're gonna feed Myles Gaskin from beginning to end. And I did the same thing last week, just tailing the team that's playing the Jets with 2+ running backs. Alvin Kamara had a game, just couldn't find the end zone twice. So I think one of us should just
coached him.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one of us should just follow this trend for the rest of the year. And Myles Gaskin, kind of underrated player. I like him. I feel like he doesn't get enough touches. This Dolphins offense is kind of weird though. It's all like just RPOs, slant routes. So, but they're hot right now. And you're right. The first bullet point on that graphic was right. They do suck. Watched it firsthand a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, if you're a Jets fan and you saw that, I'm not even going to apologize. I think you know at this point. So really, just no regrets, as they say. All right, we're going to do your third pick of the week now for Week 15. Brenden, what do you got?
Okay, so following 2+ touchdowns. Pretty good with these lately. And Travis Kelce, of course, if you follow my Thursday night picks. I'm going with George Kittle, another tight end, 2+ plus 650. I was on the fence about Deebo Samuel or Kittle. Ended up picking George. He's got over 12 targets in back-to-back games. I think he's got 27 targets in the last 2 games. He's been their offense. Like, he was unstoppable on that last drive in overtime against the Bengals. Yeah, He was awesome. This offense is popping right now. I was wrong about the 49ers earlier in the year. I thought they didn't have a lot of juice on offense, but they're a top 3 over the last 6-7 weeks. I think George Kittle's probably like a top 5 player outside of quarterbacks in the NFL right now. He does so much, always on the field, blocking, catching the ball. And the Falcons are 4th worst at allowing touchdowns to tight ends this year. So I think
my mind is blanking right now, Brenden. Was Kittle playing against the Eagles in Week 2 when you went to that game?
He was not. He was out.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because again, the Eagles, obviously, we've talked about this as well, just the way that they struggled against tight ends. And I was just like, wow, I can't remember Kittle scoring. And then over the last 4 weeks, Kittle has reestablished himself as the premier tight end. Obviously, Kelce having 2 touchdowns on Thursday against the Chargers might have just reminded people as well that he's still up there. But right now, from a tight end standpoint, I can't think of, to me, the top 3 are basically it's Kelce, Knox, and Kittle right now. I think that's
Dallas Goedert too. Come on, man. If you're going to send some shots to the Eagles, you got to throw in at least some sort of compliment.
Well, I've been betting Goddard, but at the same time, if you can't give it to me over +2, if you're still the odds makers don't respect them, I guess, because they're still listing them around like +200, whereas those other options that I was talking about now, they've completely dropped below +200. All right, we're moving on now. 3 picks in. I've got a 4th pick, and this one, the odds have since dropped. I locked this in on Saturday morning, and you're just watching cornerbacks just drop from this opposition as the days have gone on. It's going to be Allen Lazard, anytime touchdown. I got this at +375 at Bet365. It has since moved. It's around +300 right now, still at that sports book. And I took him last week when they played against the Bears, scored that first, a beautiful touchdown against the Bears. And Lazard is he's fully healthy now. He caught one last week versus the Bears, 7 targets, 6 catches. He had 3 touchdowns in 3 straight games before the COVID issue there. So touchdowns now in 4 of his last 6. And my main reason why I took Lazard is because he's been out-snapping Marquez Valdes-Scantling in pretty much every game they play. So for me, Lazard now is the wide receiver 2 in this offense, just based on production, snap counts, routes run. The difference between like a MVS or a Lazard is MVS is kind of more running like a longer routes. Like I find like an A-dot stat, for example, MVS is just an A-dot darling, for example. But, and then of course, Ravens secondary completely banged up. They just announced just a few minutes ago, Jimmy Smith isn't even going to play either. So it's going to be a tough sell, I think, for them to stop this Packers passing offense. And even just over the last 5 games, they've given up 7 touchdowns to wide receivers, 12 on the year. So you're just seeing, as the injuries are piling up, this defense is just trending downward. And for example, no Randall Cobb as well. So I think there could be a lot of passing touchdowns in this game. Allen Lazard at +375 is my 4th pick of Week 15.
The tape heads on Twitter, the guys that just grind tape, they love Lazard, just the blocking style. He's always on the field. He's probably the best blocking wide receiver going right now. And Randall Cobb out's huge. I feel like he'll be like the number 1 target in the red zone now without Cobb. So I like Lazard a lot. I feel like if he's ever over +300, it should be an auto bet from one of us.
So we were again talking about this off air. And I ended up going with Lazard, and then I saw your picks. What is your fourth pick for Week 15, Brenden? Little interesting turn here.
So following the same game here, we're going MVS plus 210. You said the same points earlier. The Ravens secondary is so depleted. If you remember the Steelers game 2 weeks ago, Ben Roethlisberger, once Humphrey was out, was just dialed in 17 straight points in the fourth quarter. They haven't hit a good passing offense since Humphrey's out, except for the Steelers in that fourth quarter, and they're not a good offense, but they lit it up. I think this is going to be a blowout. I'm all over the Packers today. I think, like you said, a lot of passing touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers is going to have a game. The Ravens defense hasn't been good all year, and now their best players out. They're in trouble.
Well, you saw the line move to -9 since Lamar Jackson is not going to be playing in this game. So he's out. But one of the things for me is just like, I feel like there's going to be a ton of passing touchdowns. Like that's kind of the reason why I was a little worried about taking Lazard, is I thought you might see a huge, like 150-yard, 2-touchdown game from Adams or something like that. And then they just do the Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon show for the second half and just run the clock out. And that's my biggest concern right now for both of our picks. But last week we went head to head. You had Gabe Davis at a beautiful odds. It was plus 380, but it was upwards of like plus 550 at some books. And I had Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders gets basically hurts his knee in the first quarter. So my bet was immediately dead. And so that's actually been a little bit of injury luck for me lately, is that guys that I picked, they just can't seem to make it through the game. I got lucky, was it last Thursday against the Chargers? Both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen get banged up basically on the first drive, 2 drives at most. And luckily, Allen salvaged it for me there at the end. But this is the best, or the volatile part of betting touchdown scorers, and really just props in general, is when you bet like on something like a big odds and then you feel like you're that close and bang, they're in the blue medical tent. It's the worst feeling in the world. All right, so we're 4 picks in. We each have 1 pick left. My final pick this week, Brenden, is a little bit of a repeat from last week, and I was saying to our producer Tino off the air before we started, I have way too much money on Jeff Swaim, so I have him taking an anytime touchdown today at DraftKings. Got him at plus 600. Bet on him last week. Made a pretty interesting case for him last week. I'm going to reiterate a lot of the points I made last week, just for people who may not have watched, and just so they can understand why I'm going back to him. Because he has right now been a steady diet of targets, snaps, and touchdowns. He is tight end 1 right now in Tennessee. And part of why I'm going with Swaim over a guy like Michael Pruitt, because a lot of people have asked me, like, hey, how come you don't like Pruitt? How come you like Swaim more? Is really, you just have to look since Derrick Henry got hurt in just the 5 games since. So this includes the game where he got hurt versus the Colts. In that 5-game stretch, Jeff Swaim has 16 catches, 20 targets, 2 touchdowns, 5 red zone targets, and has played 239 total snaps. Pruitt has 5 catches, only 8 targets, 1 touchdown, 3 red zone targets, and 138 total snaps. So if you just were looking just a solid divider, basically Pruitt does half of what Swaim does. So for me, I'm going with Swaim in the spot, especially at this insane odds at plus 600. And I know the Steelers, like, they've only allowed 2 touchdowns to tight ends this year, but they've consistently given up opportunity to tight ends. That's the one thing that actually shocked me, because I'm on over 2.5 receptions today for Jeff Swaim. I was able to get that at plus 115. And the reason being is because they've allowed starting tight ends to catch 3 or more passes in 10 of 14 games. 24 red zone targets to tight ends this year. That's insane. That's bottom 5 in the NFL. So even though they've allowed 24 red zone targets to tight ends this year, they've only allowed 2 touchdowns. So they've been pretty good at stopping it. But I just think the attrition, that's got to break through at some point. And also just looking at the odds comparison, he's around plus 300, plus 400 everywhere else. So if you're going to give it to me at plus 600 at DraftKings, I'm riding with the Swaiminator.
So I tried to go with Pruitt a couple weeks ago, and I thought he was going to be number 1 tight end. Didn't even get a target. Anthony Ferguson ends up getting a fumble in the end zone for a touchdown. Yeah. And I spent the entire week convinced myself that it was going to be Pruitt over Ferguson. But, man, plus 600 odds is really good. And he's probably their best tight end. Like, he's easily their best one of the group. They're all kind of mediocre, but Swaim should be the one getting those snaps. So I like this one a lot. Plus 600 is really juicy odds. And if you just listen to Gilles' breakdown there, how could you say no to that?
So that is my 5th pick of the week. Brenden, send us home. Let's hear your 5th pick of week 15.
Okay, saving the best for last year. I love this pick. I'm going with Ray McLeod plus 450 at DraftKings. Look, he's been a little dark horse player for the Steelers lately. He's played over 65% of snaps last 2 games. That was from up by 20%. So he literally just got a shot in playing time. He's been really good. If you watch that that was a Monday night against the Vikings, right? Or Thursday night, 2 weeks ago or a week ago.
That would be a Thursday night.
Yeah, he had a lot of juice. He looked really good on that offense. He's kind of a guy that's sort of similar to Deebo Samuel, the same kind of playing style. You get a lot of reverses, quick screen targets. So I think at these odds and not playing time, it was hidden value, and plus 450 is really good juice for this guy. I think he's going to start popping. The Steelers like him. It looks like that offense is clicking with him. So can't go wrong with this one.
So the only question I'd ask you is because for me, the darling that I always gravitate to and the guy who did end up scoring is like a plus 650 touchdown score is Jeff Swain. Or not Jeff Swain. What the fuck?
James Washington.
James Washington. Why am I even talking about Jeff Swain? Just got Swain on the brain. Swain brain. Now, James Washington has been a darling of mine to score touchdowns basically for the Steelers. And his snap counts hasn't seemed to increase, but Ray's has. I guess the question I wanted to ask is that when you're looking at odds comparisons for this, why did you end up going with a guy over Ray over a Washington, just if somebody was wanting to know that?
Well, James Washington's always in that plus 450, plus 500 range. And the one night we don't bet him and he scores a touchdown on that Thursday night game. Both of us didn't take him, and we're usually on that. I don't know, just that jump in snap count, that plus 450 odds. And he just looked, in my opinion, like the eye test match the snap count and the targets. Like he deserves the ball more. Chase Claypool's in a lot of hot water.
Yes, he is.
So I think he's going to score today. Like I thought this was the best hidden value of the week, and there wasn't a lot of good picks. We both said it earlier this week that all the games get postponed. It was kind of hard to find 5 picks this week, and I thought this was my favorite one. But we'll see. I think he's a better player than James Washington. To answer your question in a short way. But yeah, Steelers offense isn't very exciting, but I thought this was great value.
Perfect. All right, so that is our 5 picks. I'm going to run these down very quickly. So let's slow me down to half speed here. All right, first pick for me was T. Higgins at plus 250. First pick for Brenden was DJ Moore at plus 270. Second pick for me was Trevor Lawrence at plus 400. Second pick for Brenden, Marvin Jones, plus 210. We both had 2 touchdown scorer picks. Mine was Myles Gaskin, 2 touchdowns at plus 700. He has George Kittle at plus 650. We each took a Packers receiver. I've got Alan Lazard at plus 375. He's got Marcus Valdes-Scantling at plus 210. And each of our final picks is from the Steelers and Titans. I have Jeff Swain at plus 600, and you've got Ray McLeod at plus 450. I love this roster. It's a good slate. Make sure to tail both of our picks. Again, Brendan's been red hot right now with his touchdown score picks. So don't just, if anybody's watching and they're following just because of me, don't think that I'm the only one that's going to hit touchdown scores. This guy does it. So that's all for today. 5 picks from me, 5 picks from Brenden. We're going to see you next Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern for Touchdown Town on BetsTV. I'm going to have some touchdown score picks coming out later tonight for Sunday Night Football. We're not going to do a video. I'm just going to tweet them out. So make sure to watch for those. And head over to FTNBets. If you're a subscriber to FTNBets, you'll have access to those touchdown scores before I tweet them out. And make sure to follow me on Twitter at GDog5000. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Brenden Deeg NFP. I want to thank you all for watching Touchdown Town. I'm Gilles Gallant with BetsTV. Bon chance.